Love is complicated, as it takes many forms throughout our lives, but remains the same wild, burning flame of passion. Be it romantic, platonic, or philanthropic love, it all remains a powerful emotion that can fuel your determination and help you achieve what you once felt was impossible. Though the emotion is just as unstable or debilitating as it is helpful when you try to force it. And one person who embodies the concept of love right down to its core is the marvelous, mighty, mochi-munching maiden masterfully massacring monsters, Mitsuri Kanroji, the love Hashira of the demon-slaying corps. Spoiler warning, this video will contain details from up to and including the final arc of Kimetsu no Yaiba, so if you want to avoid spoilers, you have been warned. Mitsuri Kanroji was one of the 9 current Hashira during the main story events of Kimetsu no Yaiba. As well, she is known as a cultivator of her own unique breathing style, and beyond her true introduction in Chapter 100, during the Swordsmith Village arc, Mitsuri would go on to play a major role in the main story of Demon Slayers, for every following arc. And even with her relatively meek-looking outward persona, Mitsuri might be one of the strongest members of the Demon Slaying Corps, both physically and emotionally. And it is her journey through life that actually ends up mirroring one of the most important figures in demon slaying history. Though before we get too deeply into that, let us understand the meaning behind her name and design. Now, the name Mitsuri Kanroji, like all other names in Kimetsu no Yaiba, is flush with influences and references that relate to her character and her actions. So let's start first with her family name of Mitsuri, which is comprised of the characters for honey or nectar, and is often associated with sweetness, tying directly into Mitsuri's own personality. As well, she often gives off a sweet scent to her, at least according to Tanjiro. And then there's the second portion of her name, which contains the character for lapis lazuli, which is a precious gemstone that found popularity all throughout Japan and other Asian countries, due to its somewhat majestic look, resulting in it becoming a stone associated in Buddhism with dissolving impurities and making someone more sincere or trustworthy. Which makes sense, as Mitsuri is one of the most open and kind Hashira, being rated at a 90% openness amongst her allies, tying her at second place for openness next to Gyomei, the Stone Hashira, and only lagging behind Rengoku, the Flame Hashira, her former mentor. Then we have her given name of Kanroji, which is comprised of the characters for Sweet, Dew, and Temple, though when read together it can translate to Honeydew or Sweet Dew Temple, which, while reinforcing her sweet and kind personality like her family name, is also likely a reference to 2 specific things. Firstly, Honeydew has a direct association within Buddhism, as in some depictions of enlightenment, the Buddha can be seen guiding their followers towards nirvana via something called a honeydew ritual, where spirits will take in honeydew offered by the Buddha, which symbolizes the Buddha's teachings of enlightenment, and have their tainted soul purified, so that they may then one day be reincarnated in the next life as a higher being. This has, in turn, led to a trend of temples being called Sweet Dew or Honeydew temples all across Asian countries. And funny enough, Mitsuri's connection to temples within her name has actually had a real effect on one Japanese temple in specific, this being the Kanroji Temple, a real Buddhist temple that rests in the town of Kinokawa, of the Wakayama Prefecture. As ever since the series made its first theatrical boom, it has seen a crazy increase in visitors from all across the country, with the initial influx of people being estimated to be around 200 a day back during 2020, some of which even arrived in full cosplay to take pictures in front of the temple, and the head priest of the temple has even embraced the identity, calling demon slayers a wonderful representation of the Buddhist spirit, and acquiring a complete collection of the series for display. As well, the temple has begun to refer to itself as the Kanroji Temple of Love. So, if you're in Japan and want to make a stop to pay tribute to one of the loveliest girls, you can do so here. As well, one of the most famous structures associated with the name Sweet Dew Temple is that of the Gyeonglu Temple, which is an 800-year-old temple built into the side of a mountain that has been supported by a single massive pillar for all those years. The pillar itself is actually pretty unassuming in size, but manages to bear the load of the entire structure. This temple itself is also said to have been built below a spring, which over time drips water down from the stalactites that have formed over the years, and rains droplets of dew which taste sweet as honey. Hence the name, Sweet Dew Temple. And I believe that it is this temple's history, along with the Buddhist association with Sweet Dew, that matches up greatly with Kanroji's character, as not only is her work as a demon slayer a physical embodiment of purifying evil, but also how she is a hashira, or pillar, with an unassuming demeanor, housing a terrifying power. As Mitsuri was born with a unique physical trait about her, this being her eightfold muscle structure. What this does is it allows Mitsuri's body to produce muscle mass 8 times denser than a regular human's, resulting in someone who can not only build muscle easier than others, but her outward appearance comes off as meek or slender, while in reality being extremely strong and durable. This is best seen in her early years when she was only 13 months old and casually lifted a 33-pound pickling stone, an object that was heavier than her at the time, right above her head like it was nothing. Her body is also durable enough to tank attacks from upper moon demons just by tensing up prior to the hit. As well, she's also just physically capable of straight up ripping off Muzen's arms with brute strength alone. Now, interestingly enough, the name Eightfold Muscle Structure is a somewhat dual-layered reference. Firstly, the folded nature of the muscle structures is obviously in reference to one of the most famous katana forging processes, in which the metal is folded in on itself to increase its strength and durability. It is what makes katanas what they are now. But also the term eightfold is an ancient Japanese one, which doesn't exactly mean 8, but instead oftentimes just means a large amount or too big to count, seen best in terms like Yayorozu no Kami, or 8 million gods, which more so means too many gods to realistically count. So, Mitsuri's strength could actually be much greater than 8 times that of an average person, but they use 8 to imply that it is just many times greater. Though, even with this unique muscle structure, as Mitsuri trained to be a demon slayer, she realized brute strength alone was never going to be enough, and her natural muscle density allowed for her to develop more on flexibility as well as brute strength. Studying dance, and more specifically ballet, this resulted in someone who was both as dexterous as a gold medalist acrobat and as strong as a power lifter, with the only real downside to her eightfold muscle structure being that Mitsuri had an intense appetite, likely caused by a heightened metabolism. Basically, in order for Mitsuri to maintain her body's great energy demands, she needed to eat roughly the same amount as 3 sumo wrestlers, which makes Mitsuri the Corps' biggest spender when it comes to food. But this also resulted in her developing a great love for eating, as she is said to normally snack on roughly 100 dumplings a day in her free time. She also has developed a preference for more Western-style fatty foods and breakfasts, like pancakes or almond rice, though one of her most famous eating habits is her love for sakura mochi, which she ate so much of it that it actually caused her natural black hair to change colors and become pink and green, which, interestingly enough, while being a trend in the series itself, that being your hair changing color based on your lifestyle, what Mitsuri experienced is a real-life phenomenon, where the excessive eating of a single food can result in the pigmentation of your body slightly changing. The most famous example of this is seen in those who excessively eat carrots, though, of course, the effect on Mitsuri is greatly exaggerated. But it is her hair color, her physical attributes, and her appetite that are all aspects of her life that end up causing her great social hardships, depriving her of the one thing she wanted most in this world, that being love. As 2 years before joining the Demon Slaying Corps, she was set to meet with her arranged marriage partner, a man of wealth, status, but clearly no taste, as he described Mitsuri's appetite as being unsightly, her superhuman strength making her a partner only suitable for a bear, and her pink hair being gross, insisting that all of these traits are stuff he wouldn't want to pass down throughout his bloodline. And this would sadly become a trend that followed Mitsuri everywhere she goes, with her routinely being turned down by suitors who found her unpleasant. And this at first seems really absurd, given Mitsuri's natural beauty, but is somewhat accurate to a strict adherence to conformity found through a lot of early Japanese culture, which is sadly, in some cases, still prevalent in modern Japanese society today. It was so common, in fact, that it spawned a proverb of its own, that being, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. And, not to sound like an obnoxious American right now, but the Taisho period was full of fucking pussies. Look at these bitch-made men. A real dude wants a girl who will slam him through the wall like Mankind crashed through the ceiling of the 1998 Hell in a Cell. Or I guess a more apt, time period friendly descriptor would be a girl who can stretch him like Jean LaBelle. Though it is these interactions that in turn resulted in Mitsuri feeling a need to hide every aspect of herself that made her feel unique. Dyeing her hair back to its natural black color, putting on a front of someone who was weak and helpless, and of course, starving herself to the point that she constantly felt as if she was going to faint. She had begun living a lie in order to fit everyone else's standard, and even those close to her grew worried about these sudden changes. But once a new suitor came along, Mitsuri suddenly realized that this life brought her nothing but suffering. She longed not for this artificial love she created, but a love from a place where she could be herself, one where her strength, appetite, and hair color could return to its natural state, which is when she met Kaguya Ubuyashiki, the first person to praise her for her uniqueness. Not only by claiming that her gifts are something that she should embrace, but insisting those who mock or think differently of her for these natural talents must merely be envious of her fortune. He also offered her a place amongst the demon-slaying corps, which quickly became somewhere that she was not only accepted, but viewed as a talent that was indisposable. And it's likely due to her unique physique and newfound passion of expressing herself that Mitsuri was quickly taken in under the wing of the soon-to-be Flame Hashira, that being Kyojuro Rengoku, who taught her in the ways of flame breathing, and hopes of making a successor out of her in the style if he could not, with the Rengoku family even offering to prop her up for final selection. Kyojuro would even gift her with a white hori upon receiving her standard demon-slaying uniform, a treasured gift that she would wear throughout her whole career, paying respects not only to the style that she trained in, but her close friendship with Rengoku. Though, speaking of her uniform, Mitsuri is dressed in a particular way that is not seen by any of the other Slayers in the series, which is a thing directly called out by the series itself in one of the 4 komas included in the release of Volume 2. As Mitsuri's more revealing uniform was designed by Maeda Masao, a Kakushi responsible for the general uniform creation of the Corps. They are someone who also has a tendency to be a pervert, as they've attempted to give other female members of the Corps a similar uniform to Mitsuri, but most of them seem to reject this, with Shinobu even setting hers on fire in front of Maeda while demanding a new, proper one. She would then inform all of those who she worked with to do the same, even giving Aoi and Kaneo a set of matches in some oil when they went to receive their uniforms. And while initially embarrassed by her uniform, Mitsuri doesn't follow through with Shinobu's offer to demand a new one. Seemingly because, just like how she was happy with expressing herself with her hair and her strength now, she was also comfortable with expressing her body as well, and she had grown accustomed to wearing the uniform at that point when she did talk to Shinobu about it. Not to mention that she also told Tanjiro that she joined the Corps to find a suitable partner who was strong and she could be herself around them. So, she may continue to wear this more revealing outfit as a way to catch the attention of the men in the Corps so that they may approach her about it. As well, much like with the hori given by Rengoku, Mitsuri often makes gifts from others a natural part of her identity. Though, after learning more about her Hashira companions' harsh lives, she began to become a little bit more self-conscious about this selfish goal of hers, even actively trying to suppress her desires for love, which in turn began to affect her performance as a demon slayer as well as a Hashira, as when Mitsuri tries to be anything but herself, she often ends up slipping up and getting hurt, which may be why Rengoku was so willing to take her in under his wing, as he was a person who unabashedly was himself, someone who wouldn't judge Mitsuri for her weird eating habits, her goals, or her looks, even protecting her when she became overwhelmed. As in becoming a demon slayer, she didn't instantly become super comfortable with herself and being so open about it in public, though Rengoku wouldn't coddle her either, expecting in time that she would harden into her own person soon enough. Because, this time, since she was a demon slayer, her inactions could have drastic ramifications for more than just herself. And soon enough, the two of them would be deployed together to defend the Japanese capital of Tokyo from a serial bombing attack in place of Rengoku's father, who was recently determined to be unfit for duty. The reason that they took on such a harsh mission was to prove themselves as slayers, and it was this trial that would allow Rengoku to ascend to the rank of Hashira. Though within the city, the two of them would encounter the second-ranked Upper Moon Demon, who was the culprit behind the attacks. And while Rengoku fought Hiro's main body one-on-one, Mitsuri was tasked with defusing the bombs placed all across the capital and protecting the citizens from the wolves created by Hiro's blood demon art, which proved to be rather difficult, as Hiro's blood demon art was rather tough, and Mitsuri wasn't able to cut into them using her basic knowledge of flame breathing. She was essentially backed into a corner. In this situation, she felt truly helpless, though it was the cries of help from the people around her that caused her to realize that she wasn't the only person in danger anymore, and that she needed to use the gifts that she had to save those people. Not because she wants them to praise her, but because she's the only one who could. This bubbled like a flame of burning love that funneled through her, setting her heart ablaze. Soon, her body began to move on its own, though the motions were not that of the flame-breathing style, but a new beast altogether, one of her own design. Her blade cleaves through the demon's blood art, and she was able to successfully save the people around her. And not only that, but the fear of being judged for looking weird or being different burnt away as well. Mitsuri that night awakened to something, a passionate love for herself, that blossomed into its own breathing style, representing a core part of her being, one that she would aptly name the love breathing style, as love has always been a major part of Mitsuri's life, be it the love and appreciation of her family that gave her the gift she has today, to the people in her life who she hopes to get to know more romantically, or even just the love that she feels towards the people she saves from demon attacks. They are all different parts of her being. But the most important one that she was missing for the longest time was the aforementioned love of herself, as it is her confidence that has always been her greatest weakness. Because when she applies herself and believes wholeheartedly that she can do something, there's nothing in this world that could realistically stop her. Which is why her breathing style is born out of her physical traits and capabilities that no one else has. Which harkens back to Rengoku, someone who used his own strength for the good of the people around him, because it was what his mother taught him to do. And I do really like how we see a lot of Rengoku's teachings in Mitsuri's character. Though, she does become more of her own person, even getting a specialized Nichiren in order to fit her new breathing style best. This Nichiren was a long, whip-like blade, roughly 3 to 4 times longer than that of an average katana, but 1/4 as thick, allowing Mitsuri to fold it a few times over in order to fit it into her sheath. The color that the Nichiren metal would take when gripped by Mitsuri was that of a vibrant pink, which of course matches the theme of love around her character, and also the pink mochi hair color that she has. Now, the blade itself seems to be based off the Southern Asian weapon called the Arumi, which was designed similar to that of a curved blade like a tall war, but was extremely thin and had a blade as long as the wielder's wingspan. This weapon was designed to emphasize less the sheer strength of the user, but more so relying on the centrifugal force created by whipping it around. Training with the Arumi was done by controlling your momentum, and we see that Kanroji has an amazing level of control over her weapon, being able to strike with speeds that outmatch that of even the sound Hashira Tengen Izui. Now, while in universe, the love-breathing style structure is partly inspired by the flame-breathing style's teachings, which works because love is often described as a burning sensation, the depiction of the style seems more inspired by the rhythmic movements of gymnastics, and more specifically, ribbons, which is a form of gymnastics in which the performer moves in sync with a ribbon, maintaining constant motion and performing impressive movements. movements. As well, we even see that part of Kanroji's training involved dance and gymnastic-based activities, not to mention a whole lot of stretching. But a lot of the rhythmic movements of ribbons can be seen best in the motions of her many katas in the love-breathing style, all of which have unique names of their own, and like all other katas in Kimetsu no Yaiba, contain some sort of meaning within them. So let's break down each of the katas that we've seen in the series so far. Starting of course with the first kata, Shivers of First Love, which is an attack where Kanroji dashes towards her target and releases a series of whip-like slashes that rend around and through her target. This attack is actually rather similar to the parent style of Flame Breathing's first kata, and the name is actually pretty direct to the results of the attack, with the shivers being the slashes that travel through her target's body, similar to that of the excited shivers of love, which is somewhat reinforced by the interviews at Sun Tzu River, where the demons who claim to have been killed by Mitsuri say her attack caused them to feel the same excited sensation of love or even more. Then you have the second kata, Love Pangs, in which Mitsuri unleashes a series of whip-crack-like slashes that wrap around her target and cleave through them, which is a motion that matches up very well with the reading of the Japanese name of the attack, which translates roughly to tormented love, while also containing the characters for wrap around or to go around. And now, the name Love Pangs is seemingly in reference to the emotional pain that intense love can bring, one of the most common of these pains being an unrequited love for that of a crush. Next we have her third kata, Cat Lover's Shower, where the user leaps into the air and releases a series of arched slashes that are designed to disrupt and defend from attacks coming her way. Now, this attack begins a small trend in the love-breathing styles and naming themes, that being the reoccurrence of cats, simply because Mitsuri loves cats, and used to have one growing up. Her passion for cats is actually shared by the stone Hashira Gyome, and they talk a lot about them together in their private time. Also, due to the purpose of the attack being to defend, and the word shower used in it referencing the natural rain shower specifically, this could represent the love shown to animals in need, like offering your umbrella to a stray cat in the rain. It can also mean to figuratively shed tears, like if someone were to say that something was so cute it would make them cry. It's more of an exaggerated statement of one's emotions, which matches up very well for Mitsuri's own love-breathing style. Then following this, sadly we don't have the fourth kata of love-breathing style, as it has not shown up in any of the spin-off mangas, light novels, or video games. Though it is possible, like with the flame-breathing style, that one of the missing katas may appear in a movie or original anime scene. Though if I were to guess at the type of attack it would be, I would say that the fourth kata is similar to that of Flame Breathing's fourth kata, making it another defensive kata within the style. Then we have the fifth kata, Swaying Love Wild Claw, which sees Mitsuri performing a series of somersaults backwards through the air while lashing out with a whip-like string of attacks, before ultimately pouncing on her target with an attack that resembles the second kata. Now, the name itself is a bit complex. First, the swaying portion of the name likely is in reference to the flowing nature of love, though the kanji used also contains the characters for love affair, which is an action that can cause a schism or damage a relationship, causing the two involved to drift away from each other, which mirrors the nature of the attack, as Mitsuri moves away from her target before going in for the kill. And finally, we have the sixth kata, Cat-Legged Winds of Love, where Mitsuri rotates upside down in the air, letting loose a series of exceptionally quick slashes. Now, the name of the attack both plays into Mitsuri's love of cats, but cat-legged, or nekoashi, is actually a term in martial arts, and more specifically, karate. It is a stance created by the famous Gogen the cat Yamaguchi, and has many different utilities, but most importantly, it allows for quick movement while leaving your front foot open for offensive strikes, defensive blocks, or even trapping your opponent by stepping on their foot. And Mitsuri used this attack specifically to try to pin down Muzan, so it's safe to assume that this might be the intended purpose of the attack. Also, Winds of Love is likely in reference to the term love is in the air, which indicates that love is all around someone, much like the strikes of this attack. Though Kanroji's talent as a demon slayer didn't just stop at cultivating an entire breathing style of her own, but she was also able to awaken to a Slayer's Mark, which is a physical marking on the body that forms when a human has reached their limit and forces past it. Their body temperature will increase to 102.2 degrees Fahrenheit or 39 degrees Celsius, and their heart rate will begin pounding at 200 beats per minute. This combination allows their burning blood to cycle through their body quickly and keep themselves moving. Awakening to the mark gifts a Slayer with an immense power boost in their physical capabilities, estimating that it was around 100 times their natural abilities. This, factoring in her superhuman physique, likely makes Mitsuri one of the strongest people on the planet during its duration. The one downside of this power being that it burns away the user's lifespan, with those who awaken to it expecting to die at the age of 25. But with this power, she is able to single-handedly match blows with an Upper Moon demon putting in its all. Though, it's also likely that this mark is where she drew her strength from when she ripped off Muzen's arms as well. But it's hard to tell given that she was bandaged over the spot in which her mark showed, this being around her neck and close to her clavicle. The design of the mark is similar to that of a butterfly with heart-shaped wings, which could play into the term butterflies in your stomach, a term commonly associated with developing feelings of love or a crush on someone. Though, this also bears a resemblance to her Nichiren's own handguard, that being a 4-leaf clover with each of the petals replaced with a heart, which was likely chosen both for its cute design, but also because a 4-leaf clover is a sign of good luck. Though the crossguard could also be indicative of scattered cherry blossom or sakura petals, which is a flower often associated with both beauty and, in the story of Kimetsu no Yaiba, Mitsuri, whose entire pink aesthetic is directly caused by sakura mochi. Now the symbol on the crossguard is also found on her Kasuge crow, this being Urara, with it being perched on her head like an elaborate headdress found on a geisha or princess, which of course matches up with the name, Urara, which can be directly translated to beautiful or elegant. As well, Mitsuri's sweet personality and willingness to share her treats with Urara has led the crow to developing something of a sweet tooth, which is just one of the many examples of Mitsuri's loving nature and openness affecting the people around her, with the best example of this being Obane Igoro. As, after successfully reaching the rank of Hashira, which she accomplished in under 2 years, she arrived for her first Hashira meeting, but got lost at the Massive Manor, eventually running into the first of her new colleagues, that being the snake Hashira, Igoro, someone who not only suffered from a severe case of gynophobia, but worked primarily in the realm of logical reasoning. So, in meeting Kanroji, he felt like she made no sense. A person who on the surface was beautiful and innocent, and gained nothing by joining the Corps, especially since she had no prior history with demons, and yet she still put herself through the same hellish training that everyone else does in order to ensure that the world would be a safer place with her around. And not only that, she does so while maintaining this cheerful demeanor and radiating a warmness that he had never felt before in his life. It is Kanroji's natural love that burnt through Igoro's fears, touching his heart and causing him to fall in love with her at first sight. Eventually, Igoro would gift her a green pair of socks that she would wear proudly throughout the rest of the series, making her entire uniform a gift in a sense. And it is Mitsuri's love and kindness that actually makes her rather similar to another character in the series who is known for having a warmness to them, that being Tanjiro, with the two of them even having such similar personalities that it is called out by the series itself, shown in how they explain things. Though, it is this same personality, as well as her history, that made Mitsuri the perfect foil to the Upper Moon demon she directly stands against, this being the 4th-ranked Kizuki, Hantengu, a creature born from the cowardly heart of a man who never lived honestly, no matter how much he tried. Someone who fabricated his every action in order to avoid any form of punishment. Hantengu lied, stole, and killed all throughout his life, abusing the trust of strangers and even his own family to get away with it. And when he was confronted, he would lash out or hide behind his meek appearance. Hantengu would even marry, have kids, and start a whole family before killing them multiple times throughout his life, blaming a small dispute between either his wife or his kids as the reason for him lashing out. And this was all before he met Muzan, though it is his disgusting personality that interested the Demon King, and he approached him with plans of making him a powerful demon. And even after achieving a rank of the Upper Moon, Hantengu still actively chose to live his life of lies, taking on the appearance of a sad, scared old man, crawling on all fours everywhere like he was someone who was enfeebled. And this personality is even represented in his blood demon art, which allows him to hide within himself both literally and by creating fabrications of his emotions in order to punish those who try to hurt him. His meek persona is actually rather similar in nature to the life that Mitsuri nearly forced herself to live, but as we discussed before, she abandoned it in order to live more truly to herself. In essence, Hantengu is an embodiment of living a lie, and it's all too fitting that Mitsuri would help purge this demon so that he could pay for his sins. Though, Hantengu isn't the only person from ancient times that Mitsuri's character resembles an element of, though this time, it is someone who is heralded as a hero rather than a demon. One whose bloodline is considered so gifted that it is the reason why Muchiro became as talented as he did so rapidly. This being Yoruichi Sugekuni, the originator of all breathing styles. As both Mitsuri and Yoruichi are naturally gifted people, born into the world with unmatched strength that terrified as much as it amazed. Yet, it is this very strength of theirs that resulted in the people in their lives treating them differently, with both notable cases being attributed to envy as well. They also both had to live hard lives of lies due to the nature of their birth. As well, they were only ever motivated to do anything by love, though eventually they would have to abandon their life of lies in order to pursue their true self. As well, they also both treasured gifts bestowed to them more than anything, carrying it on their person everywhere they went, and making it a part of their natural identity. As well, both Mitsuri and Yoruichi are cultivators of fighting styles designed specifically to account for their natural gifts, and as a result, are things only they can do. And eventually she, along with the rest of the demon-slaying corps which Yoruichi fostered, were able to achieve his goal, pinning down Muzan and eradicating his presence from the world. And following the Demon King's defeat, in her final moments, Kanroji would receive the thing that she had been searching for all along: true love in every sense of the word. As if there's one thing that is pretty clear throughout the entire series, it's that Igoro and Mitsuri both liked each other, and yet they were both worried how the other felt in return. Igoro considered his scarred face and malformed body to be unfit for Mitsuri, where she worried her high energy and emotion-driven lifestyle would annoy Igoro. She even confided in Shinobu, someone who she felt the closest to in the Corps, given that they were the only two women amongst the Hashira, as to how she might be able to tell Igoro that she liked him without doing so directly, though a lot of Shinobu's advice was always too scientific to be useful. Also, a cute note, Shinobu was also regularly reached out by Igoro in order to check in on Mitsuri, so it's very possible that she had the tea on the situation the whole time and just let the two figure it out on their own. Thus, while embracing each other, and with mere minutes left in this world, the two simply threw caution to the wind and confessed their feelings to each other, and in turn, had those same feelings accepted and reciprocated. The now lovers passed away in each other's embrace, but their actions that day built a world for their souls to return to, reincarnated years later as two normal people who were destined to meet and reunite, starting a business together and getting happily married in the new world. Just be careful if you ever go to their restaurant to not let your eyes wander too much. Mitsuri Kanroji is a wonderfully complex character, and I enjoy her immensely. Her story is one of the few unique cases in Kimetsu no Yaiba that doesn't revolve around purely the actions of a demon inciting a need for revenge. She is someone who also represents unabashedly loving yourself, no matter what others think, though it is her many stumbles along the path of life that help make her feel so grounded or real. She is someone who has only gotten better with time, and I would love to see what the series would do with her if she was ever given her own guidance story, but until then, her minor appearances throughout the light novels will have to do. And I hope I helped you enjoy her character just a bit more. I know I have covered her in the past, but looking back at that old video, it's rather outdated. And I felt like she was deserving of a proper update, especially after being reminded of how enjoyable she was in the newest season of the anime. And so, if you enjoyed this updated relook at Ahashira, please let me know. I would love to go back and redo some of my older work on Kimetsu no Yaiba, as we have so much more information on these characters now, and I like my more current style a lot more. So again, if you enjoyed this, let me know below, and if you want to see more videos like this in the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/MediNotTheBadGuy. Every little bit helps keep this channel flowing as smoothly as it does, and if you're looking for true love, I can tell you that you're going to find something rather similar to it in Shimoneta, A Boring World with Constant Dirty Jokes Doesn't Exist at byshimoneta.com.